There are many reasons that are offered for why you blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. One of them that's sometimes overlooked is that it reminds us of Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, because there was a shofar blast at Mount Sinai. So there's a parable that's offered by Rabbi Levi, Yitzchak of Berdichev, and this parable helps us understand how the shofar and Rosh Hashanah, like what we're supposed to think about at that time. So here's the parable, and let me know what you think, how this relates to the shofar and Rosh Hashanah. It is supposed to be explaining that, okay? So here's the parable. Once a king was lost in the forest. All these parables involve a king in some ways. He asked several villagers how to find his way home, but none knew. Nobody knew how he could get home. Nor did they recognize the king. One bedraggled but wise villager stepped forward. Filled with reverence and respect for he recognized the king. So he's the only one who recognized the king. He stepped forward and tried to help the king. He directed him home and walked with the king all the way home to help him make sure he was safe. As they arrived at the palace, the king, seeing a special quality in his guide, appointed the villager a special advisor. Over the years, the man rose to be a prime minister. But various temptations arose in his duties. In time, he plotted to advance his own interests and betrayed the king. The king discovered the betrayal and ordered his execution. Okay? So as they took this gentleman out, who once upon a time helped the king, now he's being executed by the king. They took him out to be executed. He had one final wish. So what was his final wish? He says to the king, "I request to wear the clothes I wore when I escorted His Majesty when he was lost in the forest, and that His Majesty should also wear the clothes he wore then." So the king agreed, and when they were both dressed in the garments they wore at the time of their meeting, the king said, "By your life you have saved yourself," and called off the execution. So who's the king in this story? In this who's the parable that talks about a king? Which king is it talking about in real life? Hashem. Okay, let's take that. Okay, let's put that piece together. It's talking about Hashem. Now, what is the what's the clothing in this parable? What does that symbolize? See, I think it's symbolizing the shofar. Okay. Like the shofar was something that happened back at Har Sinai. We blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah to remind Hashem of Har Sinai. And when Hashem remembers Har Sinai, Hashem, like the king in the story, remembered that incident with the clothing, Hashem nullifies the decree. Something about that remembrance reminds Hashem that Hashem shouldn't punish us. What is it? So a simple explanation is that it reminds Hashem of our obedience to God, our following God at Har Sinai. We said we will do and we will listen. That's usually how the story is explained. Here's another layer, though. If you pay attention to the story, and this isn't often discussed in like commentaries I saw, the man did something good for the king. It doesn't just that the king remembered a good moment, but rather you remember being saved by the person. So maybe Hashem's remembering that we have a purpose in this world. We're not saving God. God doesn't need us to save God. But we're here. We have a purpose to bring godliness into the world. And in that way, we're kind of helping God's glory, God's kingdom in the world. And so when Hashem remembers that, so we blow the shofar, Hashem remembers, Har Sinai. Not only were they obedient, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do and listen, but they also accept they had this mission. I gave them this mission to be my emissaries in the world. When Hashem remembers that, Hashem can't punish us. Hashem remembers they're here for a purpose. We have to help them, when they blow the shofar, help them fulfill their mission. So that could be a way to understand the parable, and it could be a good message for us. When you hear the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, you could think it's a wake-up call. You could think it's a coronating the king. You could think about Har Sinai. You could think about how we accepted God's Torah, Har Sinai, with a pure heart. You could also think about like your mission. That's when we received our mission to be emissaries of God in the world. Think about that, and through that, you actively can change your decree for the upcoming year.